Yes, meow. Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. So normally I would be doing my show right now, but feeling a little general malaise, and I thought I would just come on and chat while I'm outside with Q. We're getting some sunshine. That's my Q kitty. And hi, Michelle. Hello, Eddie Hensley. I'm just out here in the yard. It is very sunny, but a little bit chilly. And I thought instead of doing like a full-on show, uh, that I would just kind of chitty chat, check in with you guys. Um, Me personally, I have been feeling a little bit of general malaise, as I was saying. Thank you, Sister Birdie. And but what we're doing right now is not that different than my regular life. I am very isolated in my daily activities. I don't have very many friends in real life. So this really isn't that much different, except that I can't go pick up my own groceries. So, but I'm definitely feeling just kind of the general imbalance that's happening right now. So hello everyone who's joining. So I wanted to check in with you guys and see how you're doing. It's a little bit hard to read the words on the screen because it is very sunny out here, as you can see. That's a little bit nicer view right there. But I'm walking my cat. See, I'm gonna show you my cat. I'm walking him. He likes to go outside, but he's a fat Tommy cat who's never lived outside, so you kind of have to go outside with him. And he's way more like a dog because when you call him, he does come back in usually. Sometimes he is very willfully disobedient, and then he doesn't get to go outside for a couple of days. So, but you can hear the birds are singing, and the sky is super blue. It's absolutely a beautiful spring day. Like I said, it's about in the mid 60s. So how are you guys doing? What's going on with you guys? In my life here, like I said, I'm very isolated on the regular. The only thing that's really changed in my routine is that I'm not going to my spiritual center on the weekends. So I do miss that. And I can't pick up my own groceries. Other than that, not much is different here. My son has a little class today. His teachers said, well, we're not grading anything, but we'll still give you a class. So I thought that was pretty cool of them. Let's see here now. Michelle says, I'm feeling the same way. I also don't go out very much. My best friend lives hours away, but you feel the heaviness. Dawn is living in her PJs. Yes, that's, okay, I'm going to share with you guys. Are you ready? Look, can you see my PJs? I have house clothes and I have outside clothes. And usually, the moment that I come home, I put on my house clothes. And the moment that I leave, I put on jeans and my bra and a shirt. But I haven't worn a bra in 3 weeks now. It feels really good. Thank you very much for asking. And I also have not put on jeans in like 3 weeks. And that also is very nice. It's very liberating. So that is probably a big difference in regular life. Hi, Carla. Hi, sweetheart. Is not getting dressed. And today was the first time I put on makeup in 3 weeks too. So I do have on a tiny bit because I thought if I am going to go on, even if I'm not doing a show, let me at least look human. I am very pale. And so my eyes tend to melt into the rest of my face there. So yeah, but there's a general feeling in the air that I really just wanted to take a moment and address and see if you guys are okay. A lot of people are saying they feel nothing, and that tends to be the people who are deniers. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but in our spiritual community, in the world, well, maybe not in the world, in our country, there's still a lot of people who think that this is all kind of a overkill or some sort of means to an end. because of some big reveal that's supposed to happen any moment now. And I'm not here to talk about whether that stuff is right or whether that stuff is wrong. But in the meantime, there are people dying. And that is a very heavy thing for people who are sensitive, for people who are empaths, for people who sense things beyond themselves, especially those who are open to explanations and things beyond where they are and not fixed on what an answer is. Truth is a slippery thing. Facts are facts, but truth is a slippery thing. And because truth is in the eyes of the perceiver. And we talked about this on the show a while back, where you have a yellow box, right? And one person looks at the box, hi Lily. One person looks at the yellow box with red glasses on. They see an orange box. The other person looks at oh shit. I guess we're going inside. We're going inside. Did that puppy scare you, sweetheart? That puppy scared me too. Yes, I am revealing a deep phobia, y'all. I am terrified of dogs. Terrified. It's one of those things that I keep wanting to get over, but haven't been able to. Thank God that dog was on a leash. He would have eaten my poor little QB alive, wouldn't he? Okay, so now we're going to be in the house instead of in the sunshine. Right. No judgment, y'all. Don't judge my house now. Do you want some treats? I figured we'd be outside for at least another 10 minutes. So now we're in the kitchen again. This is my little kitchen. Very exciting, huh? Don't do this at home, kids. My mom chipped her front tooth once, ripping something open with her teeth. That was when I was a kid. You'd think I would have learned, right? Little kitty treats for you. You were a good boy. You didn't do anything, but I'm still going to give you treats. I have 3 cats. Hi there. Is this Rory Campbell watching me, or is this his lady Chana? I'm sorry, I don't know the right way to pronounce your name. So I guess we're going to be in the house instead of out in the yard. Like I said, it's not really a show. It's not really Unleash Your Light. But I just wanted to check in with you guys and chat. 1 second. Darling, are you up? You ready for your class? Yes. Okay. So that's for his little class here. So I guess if we're going to be inside, I will put on my little, you know what? Let's take off the jacket. Yeah, I got bit in the face when I was a kid. And I have a scar on the side of my nose there where he ripped through my nostril. So ever since then, I've been a little bit scared of dogs. That was about 3rd grade, I guess. 3rd grade. So yes, and now we're in my living room that you guys don't usually get to see. We have my artwork on the walls. I didn't make that artwork, but my little bloop. I love this one. I definitely was one of these, like, chicks once upon a time. I don't know. They sense my fear. I'm sure they do sense my fear. And some of them decide they're going to come right over and sit down and cure me of it. And that is terrifying. Very, very terrifying. But since I don't own a dog, I rarely have to have encounters with them. Our neighbors here used to have a dog that they would just let run. So I never knew it when it was coming. So we'd be out in the yard. I'd be out in the yard with Q. And all of a sudden, Q would start running and I'd be like, oh my God. And there was a dog out there coming for us. All right, let me see. I'm going to plug in my little, oh, am I going to plug in? Oh, I guess I'm not. Hey. All right. Well, that's kind of weird. I just got a new case for the phone. Guess what? There's no there's no jack on the case. There's no jack hole on the case. Jack hole. Okay, so as I was saying, because there are still people who it paused. Sorry, I'm still here. Okay, wait a minute. Let's do this. Okay. Much better. I know there's a ha ha. See, now that is not good. Did you send me the right case? Obviously not. You sent me the wrong case. It fits the phone, but there is no earphone jack. All right, so let's plop down on my seat here on the couch. So because so many of us have this energy radar out, right? We are picking up on a lot of what's going on. We are picking up on a lot of the energies. We are being affected by this. And yet there's so many of our spiritual brothers and sisters who are not being affected in that way. They're not picking up on the fear. They're not having those problems the same as others of us are. And so it's a very interesting space to exist in. And it's a very interesting thing to watch in our little spiritual community, this divide, I guess, would be a good word for it. Have you guys noticed that? Like, I'm here to chit chat with you guys. This is not like a formal show. Um, it seems like there's a big divide. And, there's always been a divide in America in politics. And so then so many of us retreated into this spiritual circle of friends here on Facebook, and that's funny, Carl. And now our spiritual circle is divided because now you have people who are so focused on the call it conspiracy factor fiction space, on the nefarious intent behind what's going on all of these people that have been telling us don't pay attention to what the government's doing, just be spiritual, are now so focused on what's going on behind what's going on that there's a whole other section, hi Brian, that there's a whole other like split in our community, which is incredibly strange to be an observer of. You guys who watch me know I'm not super involved in other people's spiritual circles. I don't really go and participate in these things. A few years ago I was very involved in Sology and all of that, and I just, it's a very fascinating thing to watch, and it almost seems like an obsession. Right, Michelle. And that's the thing, is that that's exactly where I was going with this, Michelle. You are exactly reading my mind as usual. This is an actual thing. This is why we're talking about facts. And when you have a yellow box and you're wearing red glasses, the box is orange. When you have a yellow box and your glasses are blue, the box is green, right? But the fact is that the box is yellow. Our perception of the fact is whatever color our glasses are, right? So this is happening. This is a thing. People are dying. And number one, I don't turn away from that. I don't turn away from seeing that. I do watch the news. I'm watching the news all day, but I do watch the news because I am human and I live in this world. And as a light worker, I feel like it's my responsibility to be involved in the world and to send that energy of empathy and love and healing to people who may need it. I also, Michelle, have an old friend who's on the front lines working in Manhattan, in one of the hospitals. And it's very interesting. I have a friend that I've known for, I met her in the mid 90s who actually has it. She's in Florida. So, I mean, it is happening. It's a real thing. That can't be denied. But many people are very, very focused on what they believe the nefarious story behind the scenes is, and not as focused on the energy of love. Hi, Diane. Not as focused on what's coming forward. For those of you who are just joining, hi. I'm
not doing a regular show today. I just thought I would come on and chat. I was out in the yard and then someone let their dogs out. I was walking my cat, so my cat didn't like that very much. And so now we're in the house. Um, just having a little chitty chat and checking in with you guys. And yeah. And Carla, that's another, that whole fear thing. I think there's a difference between fear and precaution, but I also think there's a difference between, it's kind of like that thing where we look at people who are in the, oh yeah, Michelle, it's funny. Where we look at people who are always, oh, it's all love and light and everything else is an illusion. And we're kind of like, I live in the human world, so there is stuff beyond this and it may all be an illusion, but I'm experiencing it as real right now, and that's what I have to deal with. Fear is a real thing. And as I spoke about on one of the other shows, how our society deals with fear seems to be driving how we respond to this pandemic, to what's going on. And a country like South Korea, who has been dealing with fear every single day for decades because they're always on the brink of possible war, dealt with fear in a very even way. Hi, Richard. Dealt with their fear in a very even way, very logical way, and was able to react and act in a proactive way through that fear. In our spiritual community, I believe that fear drives a lot of the obsession with the background stuff because it's this duality between don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, everything is just an illusion, to now being so focused on that that the, oh, everything is all love and light gets almost lost in the shuffle. That having a concept to grab onto is taking many of our spiritual brothers and sisters out of character, or perhaps more into character, as strong emotions can kind of put us right back. Just like they say, drinking brings out a little bit of truth. Strong emotions can put us right into that space where we're not thinking with our spiritual mind too much. You know, we're thinking with our fear based mind. And many people have the reaction in their fear based mind of bravado and bluster and anger and pushing and demeaning and lashing out. That's a fear based response. And I'm seeing so much of that now in our community, in our community, where people are so focused on the nefarious means, the nefarious happenings behind the scenes, which no matter what your intel is, unless it's actually you involved on these, whatever, you don't really know the truth. Nobody really knows the truth. We're wearing our glasses that are blue colored or red colored, making the truth orange or green, right? And yet, that is something solid that we can hold on to. This is why religions with a Bible are so much easier for people to understand as a concept of God, because it's something solid to hold on to. It's not an abstract concept of an energy. This thing that's happening, even though it is having very solid results that you can literally measure on a chart, that you can literally see with your own eyes, that you can see the refrigerated trucks outside of the hospitals in New York City. That's abstract for people to grab. Most people can't fathom that unless they're experiencing it, unless they've been in a space in their life where they've experienced that. And so they can't grasp that, so they gravitate in the other direction. They gravitate to the other side, whether they're in spiritual groups or not. They're not in a spiritual group, they gravitate towards the whole, this isn't that big a deal and only 2% of people are going to die and we're all overreacting. And in the spiritual groups, they gravitate towards, this is a conspiracy and the cabal is going to come out and expose the slavery that's been going on, whatever it is that theory is, whatever that belief system is. And I'm not, again, I don't know the truth. I don't know the truth. I'm not sitting here telling you that one is right and one is wrong. I don't know the truth. But I know that this is happening. And I know that the fear of it is driving reactions that don't look like fear. Because nothing is chasing us. Nothing is running. We're not literally, zombies. There's no zombies in the apocalypse. It's us. It's us. Yes, Richard, absolutely. Normally at this time, I'm doing my show sitting over at my desk with the pumpkin that never dies behind me. But I felt like this week, rather than have like a show, we should just chat. How are you guys feeling that fear? Because like I said, I haven't had a lot of personal fear. I would call it precaution, but it does come up in different ways because we as Americans, we as people tend to not really know how to handle fear. And some people go to obsession, and some people go to something that they can control, and some people go to actual anxiety, stress, worry, all of that kind of stuff, Those who've experienced severe trauma are not even in their bodies. Yeah, that's another reaction to this kind of stuff. Fear takes us to a place that is difficult to put our finger on. Fear takes us to a place that is difficult to even put into words. And we're living in a big old fear soup right now. And everybody's having a different reaction to it. But here in our spiritual community, as well as here in the States, the divide is very clear on how people react. Michelle says she lives her whole childhood in fear, so she's back to surviving. Hey? I feel you. Fear creates these mechanisms in us that pop up, and some people collapse and some people push forward. And however you react, you react. But our space in it is not to react blindly anymore. Our space in this is now to observe our reactions. To observe our reactions so that we can go in and heal those things that the fear is bringing up. Richard says, fear is a state of consciousness that I don't want to be a part of. I am what I think, so when I'm fearful, I'm one with all the fearful in the universe. That's true. That's true. But once again, I have a friend who said that her teacher told her that anyone who does energy work and is tired afterwards is not doing it right. Well, you might be right, but we're still human. I'm still human. I'm still learning this. And, like I said, everyone has a different reaction to fear, but it's our space to be the observer of that. So if you can observe that and just say, I don't want to be a part of it, and then not feel it, that's good. But many of us think that we're saying that, but what we're really doing is compartmentalizing it and not addressing it and just pushing it to the side. And I find myself doing that. I definitely find myself doing that. I find myself having to address these things, and I try very hard not to compartmentalize it and rather to really look at it which kind of sucks, y'all. Like, you guys know, it kind of sucks when you're confronted with an emotion that is not a happy, love, and light emotion, and you have to really face it. You know, like Michelle, you were saying, those fears that you lived with all the time. If this brings you back here, there, then this is your opportunity to observe it because you aren't there anymore, right? And so now you can look at it from a different space, which I'm sure you already have. But this digs those things out. When we have things happen in our lives, we can use them for growth. We can use them to help us pull out those roots. In my second book, which is free on my website, P.S., in my second book, I liken these things to the wound is like a root. The thing that happened is like a root, and it grows vines throughout our entire life that will inch their way insidiously into everything that we do from this root that grows to protect us around the wound. And so these little vines grow out that affect what we do every single day without us even realizing it. So one of the examples I use a lot on my show is the if you feel like nobody listens to you, and now everything in your life, let's do something a little. One of the ones that I use that's kind of deep is, you're a little girl, mommy says clean your room, you go up to clean your room, but you don't clean your room. You hear mommy and daddy fighting downstairs, daddy leaves, and he doesn't come back. And you think it's because you didn't clean your room. Now you're like 4 years old, 5 years old. Obviously your dad didn't leave because you didn't clean your room. But that very response grows, that's the wound, and it creates this root. And then the root will grow these vines that will tangle up into everything that we do. And so that root can grow into pushing people away. Hi, Gerald. Pushing people away. It can grow into clinging on to people, not letting them leave. It can grow into perfectionism. I have to be perfect or the people I love will leave. It can grow into all these different things. And we, as we're working through our stuff, might be chopping these vines off at the surface. But if we don't dig down to where they come from, then it's gonna grow another vine. It's gonna grow another vine up into us. Lillian is feeling calm and doing a lot of emotional trauma clearing. That's good. That's what we should all be doing. That's what we should all be doing. Lillian's been working on this for a really long time. So she's been working on this stuff for quite a while now. But that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that sitting in this space where, first of all, we're with our own thoughts. I talked about that last week. You're sitting in your own shit stew. So you kind of start to smell it a little bit and in your own life, and it comes up. We're all having different reactions to a low grade fear. And some people are reacting by saying that they're not reacting. And some people are reacting by going very far in the other side. And some people are having somewhere in between. Some people are grabbing on to some what they think is fact-based explanations that make them feel better. Some people are digging into their anger at the government. Everybody is using a different mechanism to deal with this low-grade fear. It's almost like a rumble in the background. You ever go in a store, like a big store, and you hear this just rumble sound, but it's really low, and you're almost not hearing it with your ears. And usually it's like their air conditioning system or their generators or something like that. And it starts to, like, it makes your teeth rattle, and it starts to like give you like a headache. It starts to give you like a, and you almost have to leave. People who are sensitive to sound, they like can't sit in that space. This situation is almost like that there's this low grade fear, but everybody's acting normal on the surface, or they're acting really far into the fear, or they're acting really far out of the fear. But everyone's having their own reaction to that fear. rather than sitting in it, and rather than trying to use it to push forward, because the fear is connected to all of our other fears. This is a fear that is actually connected to a thing in the real world. But most of our fears are connected to past experiences, the things that we went through years ago, to beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And so this low-level fear that we can tap into can actually help to pull out those situations and those roots of fear that we carry with us all the time. I didn't really mean for this to be show, y'all. So I really just wanted to check in with you guys. Yeah, I mean, Lillian, I say it all the time. There's no end to this journey. I've been telling you guys that I see, and just by having that fear, you block some part of participating in it, I think. And dig down into that fear, Gerald, of missing out, that fear that you're not doing enough. I'm struggling with that because I keep saying I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. But then I'm like, who gave me a list of what I'm supposed to do? Like, who gave me a list of what I'm supposed to do? I think I'm doing pretty good. I did 9 short form videos so far. I've created 10 thumbnails. I worked on a newsletter for my publisher. I have been working on my little exercise bike. Look, I got a little exercise bike over there. So I've been on it every day, even though I don't see much difference or feel much difference. I am still doing it every day. But then I get on myself and say, you're not doing enough and you should be doing more and you should be da 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 da. But who's putting those restrictions on me? Me. I'm doing it. And I'm giving myself the bad feels saying what I should be doing, what I should be doing. So I'm working very hard to release that and let go of guilting myself for not doing more, you know? And I think probably a lot of us are kind of spinning in that space of feeling guilty for not doing enough. Hi, Debbie. I think probably a lot of us are sitting in that space of feeling guilty for not doing enough. But I think that it's a very good opportunity for all of us to look at why we feel we should. And not necessarily the why, but where does that compulsion come to beat ourselves up when we don't do enough? Some days I just decide I'm going to do nothing. I already have those days because of my physical situation. I have days where I have to allow myself to do nothing. So I think I have a little bit of an advantage in this whole situation because I already operate at a limited capacity sometimes, a lot of the time. And because of that, I have been learning how to accept myself doing less when I'm not feeling physically right or mentally right. So allowing myself to sit in this space of doing nothing and see what comes up and to chase those things down, to chase those things down. That's true that Richard, that they are part of the soul. They're not part of the soul, which is the essence of me. And yet I am here to experience them, right? I'm here on earth experiencing this life as human to figure out how to work through guilt and worry. And if I don't allow myself to feel them fully, then I'm not going to be able to heal them. Because I have found personally that just pushing things aside and not dealing with them doesn't allow me to fully heal them and pull them out. When I push them aside, it's like pushing aside those plants from the surface, and it all looks good and I can say that everything's cleared away. But underneath of the surface is still that root that's going to grow new vines, that root of the guilt and worry. And so I've been kind of digging into that and trying to experience this more fully. I get mad at myself because I'm, you know, reacting in emotional eating. I went vegan 3 weeks ago. I've been very good about that. I have not cheated, surprisingly enough. Maybe it's been 4 weeks. It was like the week before we went into all of this quarantine. It's just a very fascinating space. And when I get in my space of should, I sit still. I choose to sit still and ask, why am I beating myself up? Why am I doing this? And then I make myself do nothing. I make myself not push. Hello, 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 guys. We're just having a chitty chat. It's not like a full on show today. Um, I want that stuff to come up so that I can feel it, so that I can dig it out, so that I can pull out the root, so that I can try to heal it. Yeah, and Richard, that's probably when I say I sit still and ask the question, that's probably what I'm doing. I'm clairaudient like you are, so I get answers. They say shit to me, and it's not always like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's usually, it talks to me in my own voice. It speaks my language, right? The universe speaks our language. And so the responses that we get usually are in the tone that we will recognize or in the tone that we need. And while the tone of those who speak to me is loving, it's also a little tough. It's also a little tough, because they're there to help. So, uh, you know, this opportunity that we have is not just for our goal-based 3D growth, but it is also very good for us to sit in our own shit for a while and to allow ourselves to experience that feeling and process it. To allow ourselves to look at, why am I feeling this way? Why am I beating myself up because I didn't feel right enough to edit videos today? Am I feeling this way? Why am I beating myself up over this? That space that we find ourselves in, and that urge to punish ourselves, that urge to, scold ourselves, that urge to say, because I'm a loser, because I'm never going to be anything, because I'm not doing enough, because I'm never going to go anywhere, I'm going to give you guys a little insight into my little brain here. I'm finding that some of my shouldas, some of my beating myself up, some of my lack of action comes from the fear of succeeding. Because what happens if I do lose 60 pounds? What happens if I do become known and the message gets out there? The message is great. Like, I would be grateful to do that. But what about me? Can I do that? I would have to give more when I already feel like I'm at the end of my rope. But then I feel like if they want me to do it, I would be able to. Like, on the one hand, I have faith that the universe isn't going to give me something that I'm not able to do. But the human still has fears. The human still lacks confidence. The human is still sitting in a space of, I have no support. And how would I possibly handle this? And I would have to be dependent on me, dependent on that source all the time. And am I strong enough to do that? And is my connection with the universe strong enough to support me in that? Am I truly hearing what I'm hearing and saying what I'm saying? It all comes up. That fear brings it up. So it's not, for me, fear of doing something and not succeeding, I don't care about that. Like, I always find that failure is an amazing way to move forward. I don't worry about failing because I've lived most of my life I guess because my life has never looked like what I thought it was going to look like. Yeah, good advice, Richard. We should all be listening to that. And that's what I strive for. I listen and I step forward into it. And I'm working on shedding that fear. And every night I ask to work with them and that for them to work with me. And I do stuff like this. You know, these conversations that I'm having out loud with you, this is the stuff that people don't want to say, right? But this is the stuff that we should be saying to ourselves. And these are the conversations that I have silently in my head or out loud to those, to my, as Richard calls them, my helpers, to the other side, to my divine. These are the conversations that we should all be having with ourselves in this space of fear and the fears that come up. Gerald, I'm right there with you. And part of it is doing it alone. Part of it is doing it alone. I don't think that I carried the weight as heavily when I was connected to another human. But the thought of carrying so much by myself, I think is part of what, like, I get why people make power couples. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get why people form power couples to do these things, because having only yourself to turn to is terrifying already, is difficult already emotionally, to only have yourself to lean on, to get that validation from within. And yet, that is exactly where each of us is, right? We are all alone in our journeys, even when we're surrounded by people. That's another good question to ask. Y'all should pay lots of attention to Richard. Richard, feel free to put your website right on there. Richard is an amazing, amazing teacher, um, and sharer. Is that a word? Of the universe, you know. Yes, Michelle. I mean, I get that. And as much as I love all of you, there is a difference between having someone who's going to give you a hug at the end of the day or throughout the day or say, I got your back. And I know the universe has my back. I know that. Hi, Cindy. You know, I know that. I feel that very deeply. But it is through the presence of other humans that the universe can give us physical love. It is other people mirroring that love back to us to give us the physical affection. That is missing in my life. And that, see, I'm having these realizations right on the air with you guys. This is how I work through my shit. Is I talk these things through, these fears that come up. And that fear of success and having to carry the burden on my own. The fear of something actually happening. The fear of doing well for a while and then crashing again physically. I have a neurological thing that holds me back some. And so I have fear that I'm going to do great for a couple of months and then I'm going to crash again. And then I'm going to have this burden of self-sufficiency that I'm not able to carry anymore. Because I do have sometimes a week or two, 3 weeks where I'm feeling amazing and doing 1,000 things. And that's another fear, that I carry, that this situation is bringing up to the surface. What fears is it bringing up in you? When my father, I don't talk about my parents very much, but when my father left his job and retired, you can come on down, honey. When my father retired, he had this lack of purpose. He felt like he had no value anymore. And he kind of spun aimlessly for a while. And while I never sit in a space of lack of purpose, I often spin aimlessly.
Got all the important stuff out of the way. Now it's just people yelling at him to show them his dog. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Sorry, hon. My son's talking about his little class that he was just doing. Look, this is my son back here too. He painted that, by the way. It looks just like him. Anyways, uh, that too. He drew that one. But these are the things that we should each be digging into within ourselves, is exploring this fear. And you in your home are in a safe space to do that. You're in a safe space to do that. I would suggest taking advantage of that. He did a good job, right, Richard? It really looks like him. My handsome young man. Hi, Rick. How you doing? You're in a safe space to explore those fears. So like Gerald and I are sharing our fear of success. Hi, Rick. Often fear of success will hold you back without realizing that that's what you're scared of. For me, if I succeed, then I have to perform. I have to give. I have to show up every time. That's how I feel about it. And maybe that's a preconceived notion that I need to release from the fear of success. Once I succeed, it doesn't mean I have to go full out 100% all the time, maybe. Yeah, Rick, we're just chatting here. Feel free to dig in. Everybody's giving their advice and we're all sharing and, jump on in and share in the circle. This is not my usual show where I'm just yapping. We're just chitty chatting. And I always flop my shit right out there. Um, you know, Perhaps removing that stigma that I put on will help me to release the fear of success. So Richard says, in his opinion, fear of success is the fear of change, because when I'm successful, things change. That's absolutely a big piece of it. First of all, I'm a Cancer, and so Cancers hate change. But second of all, um, I know that I can handle where I am right now. I know that I can handle not having success. I know that I can handle things not happening the way that I've envisioned them in my mind because I've lived a whole lifetime of that. I thought I was going to be a performer on Broadway. I thought I was going to be an actress. I thought that I was going to have a very different life than what I did. And that's not to begrudge any of my wonderful children of their existence, but I am familiar with living life in a way that didn't look like what I wanted it to. But I don't know what it would look like to have things look like I wanted them to. I don't know what it would look like to have a success. I don't know how I would react to that. I don't know how I would respond. I don't know what my life would be like. And that's all tied into that fear, you know? And it's a strange thing to say, I have fear of success. It almost comes off very egotistical, right? When you say, I have fear of success, like you think that you would, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Richard said, all the energy around me that gets something out of me being where I am, will be threatened when I begin to change and put pressure on me not to. Yes. I used to call that like the darkness. I know that's when I first started out in this journey, I really referred to that as darkness. It tries so hard to hold on to us when we start to move out of it. My son painted that painting 2 years ago. His freshman year, he took art. And was it freshman year? Yeah, I think it was freshman year. He took art class. That's his own profile. That's his own self-portrait. And that drawing also is a self-portrait that he did. His hair is much longer now than that. Yeah. I mean, and it's he's very artistic. He's very talented, Rick. You're right. It's a very interesting space to be in. And all of these questions that I'm asking and talking about, I'm sharing my shit. But these are things that every single one of you, you're going to have a different tick tick than me. You know, you're going to have a different tick tick than what I have. And so each one of you can be asking yourself these questions. These are painful questions. Nobody wants to look at themselves and say, am I sabotaging myself on purpose so that I don't have to live up to my potential? Right? That is not a question that we want to be asking. Hi, Brana. We're just chitty chatting, Brana. Feel free to jump in at any time. This is not like a formal show. I just wanted to come on and chitty chat, check in with people. Each one of us has a different space and a different place to be asking questions. And these hard questions are those things that lead us to growth if we're honest about our answers and if we really dig into that. You know, digging into those spaces where we feel like we're less than. No matter how much on the surface we portray our confidence, because we have to, because the world requires it of us, that we act confidence outwardly, that we are, you know, all bluster, and some of us can walk it and be okay. Some of us can really feel that confidence when we're out in the world, and then when we're alone, we don't say that. If you're blessed enough to live your confidence in full on truth, good for you. Yeah, Michelle, I have had many things in my life that I look back at and think I sabotaged it. I purposefully missed that opportunity, you know? Sometimes it was about my personal life. I sat in a marriage where it was not healthy for me and I knew it, but I was so terrified to go out into the world that I continued to accept less than what I deserved, you know? We all have these things that we do. And sometimes we sabotage to keep ourselves from moving into a space that's unfamiliar, to keep ourselves from moving in a space where our best potential grows. And like Richard was saying, it wants us to, something in us wants us to stay unelevated or to stay in this lower vibration, or however you like to say it, of the fear of moving forward and not move forward or not move upwards or not move towards, or however you like to say it. And I know that a lot of it is self-love. I believe everything goes back to unconditional love of self and believing that we're worthy. And I guess if I added on to that, it would be worthy and capable. Capable, right? Yeah, I do shows about being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and sitting in that space of feeling uncomfortable. That's what we're all doing right now. It's how we use this space to move forward. Yeah, I mean, the better the devil you know, that is definitely a thing. That is definitely a thing, you know? And we each have the choice to sit in the space that we feel familiar in, even if that space is failure. Failure, I'll put it in quotes. Even if that space is living something that you never saw yourself living. We each have the choice to stay in that space or to shift into something different. Sometimes it's just a different mindset. Sometimes it's just a different way of seeing things. Sometimes it's a full on physical shift into another space. But it's definitely an interesting thing for each of us to dig into, because what's true for you may not be true for me. You may be seeing things in a completely different way from me. But it's super important to address that. It's super important to dig into that and to ask those questions. of yourself and of the universe, because they're always listening. The universe is always trying to talk to us. The universe is always trying to talk to us, and it speaks our language. And it's our choice to listen. It's our choice to respond. It's our choice to take in what they're saying. Because sometimes we don't want to take the advice of the universe. Sometimes we want to be the one making the decisions. And we have the free will to do that. But when we make those decisions based on our human experience, based on our human fears, based on the defense mechanisms that have been created by our human for protection, they sometimes hold us back from moving forward. Our defense mechanisms are there to help us, and yet they also hold us back. Richard said, I am what I think. So what's the state of my consciousness? Whatever it is, I'm one with that energy and free will. I can move my thoughts to a higher vibration whenever I choose. All true things. All true things. But again, knowing that and doing that are two different things. Knowing that and being able to embody it are two different things. And that is definitely aspirational. And it is a belief that we should all hold on to, and that I do hold on to. But of course, because we are living this human life, we have these experiences where we can't be in that space all the time, or some of us can't. And that's what we're working towards. So it's a beautiful reminder to hold on to that. I'm sorry, I'm jiggling this back and forth so much. It's a beautiful reminder to remind ourselves of that so much. But we also have to and we also have to move through these experiences the way that we're doing it. Yes, and we do have to go through it in order to master it. That's one of those things I talk about a lot is, I call it facing the fire. People in our movement tend to remove everything that makes them feel bad, tend to turn off things that don't appeal to them, And sometimes when you do that, that's a great thing because you don't want to have that in your vibrational whatever. But sometimes when you do that, you're actually removing the things that can help you to shift. Sometimes when you do that, you're actually removing the vehicles for growth. Because people are brought into your life for you to figure out how to deal with them, or to bring up something from your past so that you can move through it, or to teach you something. And if you cut them out before you learn the lesson, then you're not actually getting the lesson. Honestly, Michelle, okay, I'm gonna give you guys I always speak my truth, right? When I do this, I see every almost 50-year-old wrinkle on my face and the puffiness under my eyes because, like I said, I'm kind of under the weather. Um, and I see the physical form that is not pleasing to me. So when I turn it this way, I don't see that as much. And so it's more pleasing to me to see this. See, I'm very truthful, y'all. I come right out with it. I have vanity. Just because I look like this doesn't mean I don't still pay attention to it. I may not pay much attention to how I look, but I do, I do see the sands of time dripping through the hourglass. Let's see, Brana says the South Node point is one example of staying in the comfort zone. Everyone has it somewhere. It's just a matter of whether we recognize it or not. Yeah. Yes, avoiding a lesson is not giving myself an opportunity to master it. That's another thing that Richard says a lot, you guys. So I tend to talk in the royal we when I'm on this because I'm sharing an experience with you guys. It's a shared space, right? Richard says, always make it I, me, I. You know how we say to people, sometimes when you do XYZ, you feel XYZ. No, sometimes when I feel XYZ, when I do XYZ, I feel XYZ. And shifting it to that gives us more of a sense of personal accountability. So even in our conversations with other people, even in our conversations with ourselves, shifting into that I mode can definitely give you a different perspective on it. It internalizes it differently. And Brana, feel free to put your website up here too. Richard, put your stuff in here. This is just a chitty chat. This is not my show. This is not, you're not stepping on any toes. And all the people in here can use your wisdom. Richard and Brana are both local people here in the area where I live. I've met them both in person because a lot of you spiritual people I have not met in person. And they're amazing. Richard does these great classes and courses and connected to this whole belief system that is very familiar to all of you in the spiritual community. Brana is a master of so many different things. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way. She is amazing at so many different things, has so much knowledge. Astrology is one of them. Crystals, she is incredible with crystals. She does her own meditations and classes and all that kind of stuff. So you can put your little website right in there and people can feel free to reach out to you. They are both beautiful energies through and through. And so I definitely recommend both of them. And if they decide they're not putting their thing on here, you are welcome to look up their name and go find them because both of them are absolutely wonderful. Um, in fact, one of the side effects of this situation that we're in was I had planned this big event for the end of May that Brana was going to be one of the speakers at. And so we are in lockdown until June 10th, unless something changes here in the state of Virginia. So we may not be doing that event, at least not on the date that Brana worked out through astrology. So that may be put off, but who knows? Maybe we will flatten the curve quickly and they will allow us out of quarantine. But after we get out, we're going to try to plan it as quickly as possible. It was myself and Brana and two other beautiful local people, Kalun Yahweh and Kim Goltum, who are going to be doing this. And it was very exciting. Well, I've been on here for a really long time. I was just going to stand out in the yard for 15 or 20 minutes and chat with you. Got chased off by a dog and came in here, and now we've been chitty-chatting for quite a while. Feel free to reach out to me. I am allowing myself space to do nothing today. Now, that means that my YouTube channel is not going to get the uploads that it should, but that's okay. That's okay. It'll be fine. All is well. But any of you who want to chat, who want to have one of these conversations where we dig into our stuff, feel free to reach out and, we'll figure this shit out, right? Embrace what is going on in a way that allows you to feel the fear, to find its roots, to heal it, to love yourself through it. Be nice to yourself, give yourself a break. That's one of my shows. Give yourself a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're beautiful. You are beloved. You matter. You are loved. Know that. Feel that deeply. The universe is speaking your language all the time. You just have to listen. I love you guys. Have a great day. Don't beat yourself up. Spend a day with no shoulds. No shoulds. Because guess what? Who cares? Who cares? It's fine. Do nothing for a day. It'll be good for you. Bye-bye.